Garland in the corner. He's got it.
Feed snaps. Pow! With the running in. Mitchell shakes. To the basket. And thunders it home.
Oh! Mobley throws it down.
And Allen blocked the shot at the rim.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network, without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. The Cavs are coming off back-to-back wins over the Memphis Grizzlies as well as the Milwaukee Bucks, moving to 2-0 over the Bucks this season series. Nice national TV game. Awesome game from Donovan Mitchell. And joining me today is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I think the Cavs have something here. You know, all they need is the opposing team's star to have a soft tissue injury in the first half.
Well, the Bucks are clearly not the same team without Giannis. The Grizz might be a little bit better without Ja at this point, but you know.
Yeah, it's been
one
kind
in one bucket, one in the other.
kind of wild. That's happened 2 games in a row. Obviously, good vibes to both Ja and Giannis. Hope neither miss too much time. But yeah, I mean, it all of a sudden you look at this team. I don't think they're still playing great. You still have individuals who are kind of finding their way, and they've won 7 of their last 9. And I don't know what to make of that, Justin. I'm kind of curious before we even talk about the game or how they've played these last 2. Like, what do you make of the fact that even though I don't think either of us, and clearly Kenny Atkinson in his post game doesn't feel like this team is playing their best ball, what do you make of a 7 out of 9 stretch for these guys?
Well, not just 7 out of 9. I think if you look at the overall record,
10 out of 15.
Their current pace is a 55-win team. So I think it just gives you kind of an idea what the floor is with this team.
Yeah.
And I'm, even just looking at the Memphis game as an example, I felt like they were kind of playing in mud for 2.5, 3 quarters in that game. And then it was like they flipped the switch. It was almost like we were back at those old LeBron teams that would just turn it on when they would have to. They took control of that game in the fourth quarter and, kind of coasted to a win by the end of it. And I was sitting there, and I think I even messaged this to you after the game. I said, if this game were to have occurred, in the middle of a 5-game winning streak or at the end of a 5-game winning streak, I wouldn't be bothered by it. But right now it does feel like the Cavs have some problem solving to do, and they're having almost some trouble getting up for this new season, right? Like I think we went into this season understanding that they're not going to be testing themselves in the regular season in the same way. And I'm fine with that. It's just, I guess where the disconnect comes for me is watching a team that's trying to do problem solving and try new things when you can't really try to implement new things if you're not doing it at full speed. I'm not saying 110%, but if you're actually going to try to get a proof of concept and you're trying to get some new data points, you kind of have to, really execute it and really be bought into it. So I feel like right now they're trying to figure out as a collective, what are we trying to get out of each individual week in the regular season? And I think that's why, you feel a little bit of that disconnect that you're describing there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I will say, even though I joked at the beginning about the Cavs benefiting from, Giannis only playing 13 minutes in this game, I thought I liked their process better tonight. What we saw was the Bucks kind of went into a hedge and recover pick and roll defense. They kind of spent a lot of this game telling the Cavs ball handlers, hey, we don't really trust you to turn the corner on us consistently. And I thought what the Cavs did a really nice job of was cutting into empty space to create opportunities. Like, if you're not going to be a crazy ball pressure team, you have to leverage kind of the geometry of the floor differently. Mm-hmm. And I think we saw a really, I'll shout out a guy who, I don't normally give a lot of shout outs to on the offensive end of the floor, in Dean Wade, who, in that second half, finds Evan with AJ Green on his back hip in the deep post, knows that I think it's Kuzma has to come down and double and help right away. And the second the pass leaves his hand, Dean is flying towards the hoop and gets a wide open dunk. He also just one of those, one of these plays that's not going to make a ton of highlight reels, but on a swing to Sam Merrill, Dean vacating the corner and cutting towards the hoop, pulled Sam's man down just enough to get Sam a wide open three. And like those are the fundamental movement plays you have to make if you're not going to be spamming 70 pick and rolls a game. And what we've seen is that the Cavs don't really have the personnel to do that right now, especially without Darius. So you got to get creative. You got to move the defense in other ways. I thought the Cavs did a nice job of that tonight.
Yeah, and giving more flowers to Dean, that little give and go basically that he had with Evan, right, where he found Evan with the deep seal and Evan hit him with the pass off the cut for the dunk. Like that was a phenomenal play. I thought he had a really, really good game. And I almost want to disagree just a little bit when you say they're not really built to run a lot of pick and rolls. Like a night like tonight, and even when we've seen this team turn it on in the past, I think we see them get to the rim more, right? Like this performance from Donovan Mitchell was awesome. Like this was him really getting into the paint. He was driving, he was making some brilliant passes. I just don't think Donovan can do this for 82 games, right? And he shouldn't have to. So I do feel like there is some aspect of, all right, we are kind of keeping this. We're managing this regular season. We're not trying to wear Donovan down. We understand what part of this year is going to matter the most. And this team, probably even with the guys that are out of the lineup, can execute the way that we need to see. It just takes a whole lot more effort, right? So go ahead
real quick, because I'm not saying that they can't generate rim pressure. I'm saying they're not going to generate it by a guard or by a ball handler consistently running pick and roll, turning the corner, and getting all the way to the rim. Like, that's just really not what they're built to do. So what did they do? They got switches when they could. They strung out the defense on some of those hedges on a few plays. Guys cut into open space. When Biggs did get a small on them, I thought Jarrett had a very nice game doing this, as were some of Evan's better possessions when and Evan had a rough game today, I thought, offensively. But like, I thought both of those guys, were able to get deep seals and find guys like Sam, who was a flamethrower yet again, on some relocates and some, when the Bucks dug in, even when they weren't doubling, when they dug, they were able to kick it back out and get clean looks off of their rim pressure in a different way than what the Cavs have generally created that rim pressure. So, that's what I mean by, them not having that kind of pick and roll heavy offense.
Yeah, good clarification there. And I thought the rim pressure overall today, it was really strong. Donovan was obviously a massive part of that, but getting Craig playing as well as he did was huge. Craig's actually been playing really good basketball for a while now.
Good.
That's probably one of the brightest kind of stories. I think the play of both Craig Porter Jr. and Jalen Tyson, who still missed this game and the Memphis game with the concussion, that's been some of the brightest spots from this season, in my opinion. I thought both of them played fantastic. And if we're talking about great guard play too, like Sam Merrill played great. I know he didn't have any assists today, but I feel like he was playing really good team basketball and helped generate
geometry of the floor type of stuff.
He really, really, really played well. And it had been about 5 straight games that he hadn't shot well from 3. He was definitely in a bit of a slump. Understandable that happens to all great shooters, but particularly with how hot he was, you just kind of knew that was coming at some point. But he really busted out of that tonight. He was phenomenal, and it's kind of fun when you have a matchup of 2 very similar archetypes. And I'm not just saying this because they're white shooters, but like Sam Merrill and AJ Green both play very, very similar styles. Both of them are better defenders than you would assume. They move into similar spots on the court, and for Sam to kind of get the better of that matchup was really funny. I did enjoy I think it was in the third quarter or maybe in the fourth, when the Bucks were going down into a zone and AJ helped off of Sam, and you could just tell the panic in his face when that ball swung to Sam in the corner. He's like, I should know better than this. I punish people when they do this to me. So it was really nice to see Sam have such a good game. And, I actually thought he ran some good pick and roll, possessions, or at least coming off of a screen. Like there's that time he got all the way down to the rim. He's in a lot better control as a ball handler this season, and that's something that I've consistently noticed.
Yeah, just I mentioned geometry of the floor. I feel like that's kind of been the story of the game. By the way, Cavs only took 35 threes in this game. Sam and Donovan combined for 17 of those attempts. So just under half. But yeah, I think Sam's doing a really nice job of leveraging the panic he's creating. Slipping into open space, getting the defense in rotation, even when the Cavs don't capitalize. Again, I've just as this offense has been trying to find its way and find what it can rely on a night-to-night basis, outside of be good Donnie, which is great button to be able to push. I think Sam's obviously the shooting's been phenomenal, but the way he slips into open space, his cuts towards the rim, that even though he's never going to be a great finishing threat, like if he's got a free run, a big has to sink down and get out of the way. Like I just think like he's helping get the defense into rotation consistently with his off-ball play, and obviously the jumper has been phenomenal. And I really do think he's a big reason why they were able to pull away in this game. And yeah, I feel like when you have him doing what he was doing, and Donovan being as good going towards the rim, I thought this was maybe Donovan's best rim pressure game of the season in terms of just consistently turning the corner and inspiring panic. Thought he was good against Memphis down the stretch, doing this as well, and not just overly relying on the pull up, which is always going to be there for him. The backcourt won them the game. I don't think there's any other way to cut it. You got 57 points from Donnie and Sam combined, and that'll do you.
Even getting into Craig and Lonzo. Like Lonzo had a great game. Like they really got great contributions from a lot of guys. And Naquan Tomlin, who has been phenomenal for them lately. He's still going to have the odd mistake on the defensive end, and it's pretty remarkable that there is someone on this team with the nickname Hacky Chan and it's not Naquan Tomlin.
Wait, like, whose nickname is that?
Jalen Tyson. Come on, man.
Oh my gosh.
Keep up with your Cavs. Come on. I shouldn't be breaking this to you.
That's news to me.
But he makes a lot of impact plays, and particularly with this style that the Cavs are playing, where they are causing chaos. Having someone athletic like that's able to, kind of change the tempo of the game and give some juice, I think there's a real value to that. And obviously the Cavs aren't in a position where they're forced to make any kind of decision when it comes to Naquan Tomlin. With him being on the two-way, he is eligible to play 50 games this season. But, he's really giving them a lot of a boost. And it's important, particularly given the fact that Larry hasn't looked as good the last couple times he's been out there. And I don't want to jump to conclusions when it comes to Larry, just because I thought he actually was playing pretty well at the start of the season. And I understand he's coming off that knee injury, but whether he's still not at 100% and just doesn't have that same explosiveness back, or, he's just in a little bit of a funk, having someone that can give him a little bit more of a rest and compete for those minutes, I think that's important.
Yeah, I think Tomlin's been really, really good. And I do, part of me wonders, you look at Tomlin, you look at Craig, and up and down this roster, there's a lot to prove for these guys, but there's not a lot for them to prove in games 1 through 82.
Yeah.
And I just can't help but wonder if there's just a little bit of like Tomlin and Craig Porter Jr. and Jalen Tyson. I mean, less so Jalen Tyson because he's got the pedigree of being a first-round pick. But a guy like Tomlin, a guy like CPJ, like these guys are fighting for their NBA lives.
Yeah.
When they're on the floor. And like, I don't know. I just feel like you can kind of tell. And like, I think they've added a certain like desperation that the Cavs haven't consistently mustered this year. And I think there's a reason why they're getting minutes and Kenny's playing them over extended stretches of like, we need to stay connected or we need to get back into this game kinds of minutes because like they're the ones who are I would classify them as playing the most desperate basketball.
Yeah, I think that's why when you do see teams that have been together for a while, sometimes you do need to get a little bit of fresh blood into the rotation at some part, right? Like, even though these guys have been around the team, they haven't had opportunities like that. And when you have the top end of this rotation being guys that have proved basically all that we need them to prove in the regular season, right? Like how it translates to the playoffs is the biggest thing. Coming off a season that was incredibly exciting and incredibly successful until it very abruptly wasn't. I can understand it's taking some time to get going. But you mix in someone with infectious energy like a Naquan Tomlin or Craig Porter Jr., who's just playing with so much confidence. Like some of the shots he's taken have been fantastic. Two really loud pick sixes in this one where he dunked on Ryan Rollins. Like that gives you a spark. That gives you a little bit of a push. And I think that's so important. And that's important because the guys that are available, as much as I talked about, hey, like they've done it before. Sometimes it's going to be tough to get up for these games in November. You're also missing two guys that just kind of naturally play with infectious energy, right? Like Darius raises everybody's energy out there just with the style of play that he has. And then Max raises everybody's energy because he's going to yell at absolutely everybody if he feels that it's if there's a drop off in intensity, Max is going to let you know, and he's someone that can raise that. So you're kind of missing two like energizer batteries with those two guys. So I think having guys like Craig, like Naquan, and Jalen does make a big difference.
I'll even give a little credit to Thomas Bryant, who did not
good
make
call.
an impact in the box score of this game. 0 of 1 from the field, 2 rebounds in his 7 minutes, but just an immediate injection of physicality and nastiness. Maybe got a little out of hand, Chuck and Gary Trent out of the play. But, I do think there's value in that. And I thought he guarded Giannis really well.
He did.
And I was wondering if this would be a Thomas Bryant game, at least for stretch, because of how strong he is. And, if you can just say, hey, lay off Giannis, give him some runway, and we'll bring some help to make it so he can't just drive around you. I think the Cavs are actually pretty well situated to try that matchup. Even though I wouldn't say, Thomas Bryant's a Giannis stopper. Like if you're going to have to put him on him, it's like that you've got good length and personnel to muck it up around that. I just thought he gave them really, really good minutes, and I gotta say, obviously Larry is currently, didn't play tonight. We don't know if that's a forever thing or this matchup thing. Larry's minutes have been very challenging over the last couple games. As someone who is really, really excited about the signing, this was probably what we're seeing is probably the downside, which is, the foot speed hasn't been good enough to guard on the perimeter. The three from last year that was so good and reliable for him just hasn't dropped. And the Cavs, I would also argue, all of a sudden, because the Cavs haven't been able to get consistent rim pressure off the bounce, it's like he's not getting his cleanest, easiest looks on offense either. So I do think that for this version of the Cavs, with the personnel they have out right now, with Darius still nursing the toe, with no Max, I gotta say, I do think Thomas Bryant and Naquan Tomlin in the aggregate might make a little bit more sense for some of those backup big minutes. Plus, Dean's given you enough on the boards and as a shooter. Not every night, which is why I do think there are going to be nights where I would like to see them try Thomas Bryant for a few more minutes, or Tomlin for a few more minutes. Again, in the interim. But yeah, I just think those guys might serve this current roster a little better.
It's interesting because I think this is the first time that we actually have had legitimate competition for those 4 or 5 positions, right? Like the minutes there.
It's just been Dean and the Deanettes.
Yeah, right. Like it's you actually do have a legitimate fight for minutes there, right? And you have the optionality to play a bunch of different styles, right? Like you can close with Dean as they did tonight. You can close with Jared and Evan like they did against Memphis, right? And we're going to get to Jared a little bit later, who didn't play in the fourth quarter. I thought he actually had a good game.
Yeah.
But I understood closing with Dean just given how small Milwaukee was going and how well that lineup was working. But I do think it's part of a larger trend that this deserves being discussed. But before we get to that, as you mentioned before, this was a really tough game for Evan. I thought the second half process was a lot better than the first.
Yep.
But, he's very clearly in his own head. And we were talking about Sam before, and I was kind of thinking of what Sam said at media day, where he said, when I went through the shooting rut, I had to kind of sit there and watch my own highlights a little bit and, just like kind of gather myself a little bit, because Mobley, we're so used to see him process just at lightning quick speeds, make the right play almost all the time, sometimes being too passive because he's out there making the right play. And I feel like I'm watching him think out there, and he's got to go with the first instinct. Like I know I've said this a million times before, but sometimes the wrong decision made decisively is more instructive and easier to work with than indecision. And I feel like we're getting at a point where he's kind of getting caught between decisions, doesn't go up as quickly normally. I did like that he rallied in the second half. I thought he took better shots. The process was there.
The passing was better.
The passing was a lot better.
Found Sam for a couple of those threes on some nice reads at the right time.
Cook, Cook Miles Turner on that one drive too, where he was playing a little bit too high up on him. So the moments are there, and I feel like if you took a highlight reel of Evan Mobley this season, and it's just the positive plays, it would look like he's made progress this year, because the stuff that he does, like when he has a play that goes well, it looks great. When we watch those Draft Express profiles where we're like, oh, the good, like the first half looks awesome, like this player can do no wrong, and then you watch the second half and it's like, oh, this player doesn't belong on a basketball court. Like overall, the efficiency has gone down for Evan. He's trying to do things that he hasn't done before, and when it works, it looks well, it looks good. But you and I watch the full game. We watch it sometimes multiple times over, and like just the process of how he's getting there and kind of those in between plays right now, it just doesn't look like Evan. And I think he needs to get back to himself a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not been there, consistently. I'm not sure what we've seen is, like the offense just isn't good enough. I don't want to be overly declarative, but the 3-point shot looking better is nice, but like it can't be at the expense of the other parts of the game that I think we've seen in some cases some regression. Like the handle doesn't. I don't know if it's because he's having to attack set defenses more often, or just is attacking set defenses more often. I'm not really seeing a lot of progression with the handle.
I think the handle's better. I think he's attacking from further out and trying to do more with it. I do think that on a possession by possession basis, I do think it's a little bit tighter, but I think sometimes he's got a little bit too much dip on the chip, particularly with the indecision. I feel like the decision making with there, like what he's trying to get to, I feel like that is the bigger issue than the handle. I do think that the handle's progressed from last year.
Maybe I'm just not seeing the corner turned, at a higher degree than I saw last year. But I'm seeing him try more, and getting ripped a decent amount in the process. I think you're right. I think he's just a little adrift at sea right now. And I think we're probably not giving enough credit to the fact that this offense isn't as well equipped to spoon feed him easy looks, like if he's getting 3 or 4 easy catch and dunks additional per game, like if he got 3 more spoon feeds in this game, he's 7 of 12 from the field, and has 20 points. But he's just not really getting a ton of those. I would argue he's not really getting set up to have a ton of those. And
but there were also easier possessions that he would have converted in the past, right? Like the shooting percentage is one thing, but I think the 6 turnovers tonight is almost more illustrative of kind of the indecision and possessions that could have been a bucket and probably would have been a bucket last year that just haven't been there. So I think a little bit of a reset's needed. One thing I'm keeping in mind is like we're a month and a half from the new year, and thinking back to the Pacers last year, like Tyrese Halliburton started this season like crap, right? Like he might not have even been a top 15 guard in the East, forget the NBA. And the Pacers struggled for the first few months too, right? So it's a really, really long season. I don't think it's a bad thing when you play well at this time of year. I would like to see it look better than it has.
Sure.
But there is a long time to figure out. And odds are, before we get to the playoffs, we're probably going to get a good 10-game stretch of Mobley where it looks like it's all come together. We might get another 5-game stretch where it looks bad again. And we probably get another extended stretch where it looks really good. Like if I had to predict, you're going to have those ebbs and flows throughout the season, just like, Sam Merrill is a shooter. But I think getting the process nailed down and figuring out exactly what they want to do with him, that to me is where I felt like we were making more progress, and then it's almost backslid a little bit. I felt like it was getting better, and now it just feels more disjointed right now.
Yeah, I really don't want to end the segment on a downer because I do think you're right that we will see this get figured out. It's just a little disconcerting that 15 games in, it doesn't feel like. I feel like I'm not seeing them figure it out just yet. I feel like I'm not seeing them consistently find ways to get him the ball with advantage to go, leverage his strengths. It just, everything feels like it's either, it just kind of feels all on Evan's shoulders every possession. And I just don't know if he's got the game to do that yet.
Yeah, it's going to take some time. We've consistently said that he needs to be the most impactful player on this team, but I still feel like from a scoring standpoint, Donovan's always going to be the leading scorer, and I feel like DG is going to be a larger offensive engine than him. Some nights Evan's going to take more shots, some nights it's going to be Darius, but it's about getting Evan to that spot where he consistently contributes, where he makes life easier for those two and getting him in sync, because we know how important it is to stay in sync, Carter, and teams move fastest when everybody's in sync. Zoom Workplace keeps meetings, chat, docs, and more together so your work flows like a perfect play. Keep work moving and zoom ahead with Zoom Workplace. Speaking of how things looked, how'd you like the court and the jerseys?
Oh man, I really liked them. I like it's kind of like a Tampa Bay Buccaneers creamsicle.
A little bit.
Not quite the same orange as in Cavs past, maybe a little bit of a lighter shade. But I definitely liked it. I won't put it ahead of the blues from last year. I'm wearing the blue from last year on the pod. I think those might be in my Mount Rushmore of Cavs jerseys. I loved them that much, especially with the court. Oh, it was gorgeous. But yeah, I thought it was a nice showing for the city edition for the Cavs. And I feel like we're several years in a row of me not having really anything negative to say. And city editions, there were iterations that I really, really didn't like. But I really think they've been on fire the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I thought at the start when I first saw the court, I'm like, oh, that's bright. But my eyes adjusted to it pretty quickly. I actually thought, yeah, I liked it. I definitely liked it. I don't know if I would look good in one of those jerseys. I know you give me hell for wearing jerseys to the gym. We're not going to get into that again, but with my
they're not for us. Let's just say
not with my borderline translucent skin here.
No, you
that's
just
not
fade
going to work
in.
out well.
You just fade in like a green screen.
No, particularly basketball season. That's when the sun's not out.
No.
It's this is not my time to thrive out in the sun. But I like them very, very much. A lot of the merch looks awesome. I really like that. So Cavs looked sharp, and I thought, they did the jerseys justice with that win and getting it together on the offensive end. But the one thing I found interesting was this was a fourth quarter where Jared Allen did not play. It's been a little bit of a trend recently. They did close with Jared in the fourth quarter against Memphis. I think he came in with about 5 minutes left in that one to help close it out. But we have seen him sit a little bit. Shout out to our buddy Danny Cunningham, who was answering questions for his Substack, The Inside Shot. You guys should definitely be subscribing there.
Yes,
but
you should.
One of the things that he mentioned in there was asking Kenny about that, and Kenny mentioning, well, you understand that teams have been playing at a higher pace, and sometimes we kind of downshift in terms of our lineup size in those minutes to kind of meet that. And my first reaction to this is something that I've consistently thought about, which is we see a whole variety of different styles win NBA championships, but I think the one consistent thing we see with every team that has won a championship is they play their style. And I do think that this is a more versatile Cavs lineup and roster than it's been in the past, but I don't like the opposition dictating the terms of engagement. One of our big takeaways from that Pacers series wasn't like, hey, we got to play more like the Pacers. It was, hey, we got to kind of channel that Pacers energy that made every single game feel like Pacers basketball. And I think going back to the start of the podcast, Carter, I feel like one of the reasons why this season has felt not as good as the record is it hasn't felt like it's consistently been Cavs basketball this season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I gotta say, I remain a little troubled by this. I hate to do 2 segments in a row where I'm a little bummed out, but I just kind of keep going back to the fact that I think the team really, really needs to make dictate the terms of engagement and make other teams feel them. And, last 5 games, Dean Wade's played more minutes than Jared Allen. I love Dean. I think he's a really, really helpful player. I always go back to when you want to downshift, what are you looking to get out of it? And, are you getting more dynamic on the ball? Are you adding a ton more shooting? And Dean has shot the ball pretty well, but I wouldn't say he's like a sniper by any means. He's not someone who materially shifts the floor. So really, you're looking for foot speed on defense and switchability, maybe, which Dean definitely does at a higher level than Jarrett. But I don't know. It's just odd. It's a little odd to me where we are, where Jarrett's 6th on the team in minutes over the last 5 games. When we don't have Darius, when we don't have Max, in some cases didn't have Evan or Donovan. I'm a little confused, and maybe it's another situation where Jarrett, just like Larry, maybe the play style isn't super supportive of him, of what he does well right now. And they're trying to figure out how he's supposed to plug in. But I thought he gave them good minutes in this game. I thought he finished well. I thought he protected the rim well. I thought he wrestled with Giannis well in the 13 minutes that he had to. I'm just generally a little confused about what the plan is there. And again, we can't say experiment and then react in horror every time they do something different.
Yeah.
I don't want to draw the wrong conclusions, and at the end of the day, this coaching staff knows more about basketball than I do, and I don't think it's fair. Reasonable minds could come to the conclusion that they shouldn't always close with Jared Allen. I just feel
tonight I felt it was the right call. I thought the Dean decision was the right one.
Very reasonable calls in many cases. I just I don't know. I just feel like if I had my druthers, I would be closing with Jarrett 90% of the time and without 10. It feels like the coaching staff right this second is like more like 65-35 or whatever the number is. I haven't actually run the numbers on this, but so it's one of those things where there's a misalignment with like what I would do and what the team is doing right this second. Does that matter? Probably not. Could it change in a month? Probably will. But like I will say, it's just like it's a little troubling to me, just because it's different than what I would do, and whenever that happens, you kind of your cackles are gonna be up. You're gonna be like, what's going on? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I thought it's also important to keep in mind he is playing through a fractured finger, right? So maybe that's part of it. If you look at his overall minutes per game, it's down to 26, down from 28 last year. So we're talking about a 2-minute per game difference, but some of that was deflated by them sitting in a lot of fourth quarter blowouts, right? Like it very clearly is a different scenario than last year.
Was he playing like 4 minutes a game in the fourth right now? Like,
yeah,
or something
I think
like
it's like
that.
4.5, something along those lines.
Like,
so
that's not a ton.
No, and one of them was brought down because I think he played just a single minute in one of those fourth quarters, but it's very clearly a trend, right? And if it was just tonight, I would say decision based on what lineups rolling. We saw Kenny do that last year even, right? But it does appear to be a bit of a trend. And I found the pace explanation interesting too, because I understand that on the surface. It also tied into what Brian Windhorst was talking about. He wasn't talking about the two big lineup, but he was saying that the Cavs are a team that's playing in a fast league and they're not built to play fast. I thought that was a really interesting comment. I think he might have been a little biased because he said he spent the week with the Clippers and the Warriors and both teams were complaining about the pace. So I think it might have been, a bug in his ear to some extent. But it made me think because, and this data isn't including tonight's game, but out of the first 14 games, I wanted to look at, are they being dragged into these faster games by these teams, or is it kind of going the other way? And the thing that I found was 10 out of these, 10 out of these first 14 games that they played, the Cavs played at a higher pace than those teams play on their season average. Even that Miami game, the one that the Cavs won, Miami's the quickest team in the league, and they played at an even faster pace when they played against the Cavs. In fact, 11 out of those first 14 games, they played with a pace above 104, which would be, the second fastest pace in the league. So they really have been playing an up-tempo style. And even if you look at that two big lineup, the Mobley and Allen minutes so far this season, they play at a pace of 106.21. That would be the fastest pace in the league. Mobley's pace on the season is 103. So that would lead me to believe the Mobley single big lineup is actually playing at a considerably slower pace than the Allen and Mobley minutes. That makes sense to me. The Cavs historically have played faster with two bigs because you can't set up in the half court the same way, right? You have to factor in some of the what you're giving up for spacing. But it does, seem noteworthy to me that pairing is playing incredibly well together, plus 21 net rating, playing at a pace of 106.2. So the pace as an explanation doesn't. I almost wonder if it has more to do against defending 5-out lineups and Jarrett defending out on the perimeter in space rather than the pace itself, because the pace seems to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a defensive question of pace and whether they can get back and hang with teams that are trying to run against them as opposed to their ability to get out and run. Because I agree. I'm not surprised by any of these numbers. Great polls as always, my friend. But like, none of them really jump out at me as like, oh my gosh. I mean, I would argue 106 is probably a little too fast, boys. But they also haven't been able to score nearly as well in the half court. So I get that they're trying to push and trying to find advantages kind of wherever they can be found right now. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I just kind of don't buy it, and I never have. Like. Pace is a choice more than pace is personnel,
Yeah.
Like you can't tell me that Evan Mobley and Jared Allen can't help a team that moves quickly down the court. Like they have unbelievably good feet. They are faster than most of their big man compatriots. They are as fast, in Evan's case especially, as many smalls and wings in the league in a dead sprint down the court. In fact, you would argue that the quickness advantage of smaller players is negated in a full court sprint. So like I just kind of don't buy it. From Mr. Windhorst, who I respect deeply. And I just kind of want to, again, I don't think that playing big means you have to play slow. And I think that the Cavs, if anything, one of their superpowers.
To be clear, he wasn't talking about the two bigs. He was actually talking about their overall personnel, but that, they look a little scrambled on the defensive end and things like that, which I think is an interesting conversation in itself. But I just wanted to clarify fair. He wasn't talking about the two bigs.
Fair. Before we send off this diss tape. No, that's not true. But yeah,
he's a loyal listener, you know that.
But yeah, I mean, I just I at the end of the day think that this team's superpower is that they can play fast and get in, kill you in open space while being huge. Like that's the cool thing about these two is neither of these guys are a Jonas Valanciunas or a plotting center that is the last one to cross half court when you're running. So like I just feel like lean into it. But they all at the end of the day they kind of have to show that and if they're hauling ass up the court, I don't think Kenny's going to be like, we got to get Dean in. So, I think there's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B here.
Yeah, to me, my main assumption, I think it has to do with 5 out, right? Like, and that was the one thing I noticed. Jared did have a possession where he wasn't far enough out on a shooter. I forget who in particular was taking the shot, but basically dropping back too far and not getting up and impacting the shot. To me, that would make the most sense, right? And we even talked before the season. Like my assumption would be if you are closing small with this group, you probably have Darius and Donovan out there. You probably have Max and you probably have DeAndre with Evan, right? Like I'm not saying that that's not something that you can go to, but I do think in a season where we haven't had a lot of bread and butter kind of go-to lineup, having one a pairing that's plus 21 in terms of their net rating and is performing incredibly well on the defensive end, is getting the rebounds and actually ending possessions, which has been a sore spot for this team, and has been great on both ends of the floor, could probably stand to use it just a little bit more. But again, like you said, when it comes to experimenting, you're not going to be able to find out what does and doesn't work unless you try it. But the same is true for trying to get that pairing to play better in a variety of different situations, right? And I think my biggest thing comes back to, are you the one that's dictating how this game is being played, or is the opposition? If you are on your back foot and you are reacting rather than being proactive and getting them to react to you, I don't think that you are. I don't think you're a contending team or playing like a contending team unless you, in fact, end up doing that. And I think this is absolutely a contender when I look at this roster.
Yeah, I mean, that's their goal and that's their stated intention. So, again, it's nice that you can win 7 out of 9 while you're still figuring stuff out to this extent and still playing around with some of these things. And doing some things that, like, frankly, like you and I are like a little concerned about. To be at a 55 win pace I think, I mean, I won't speak for you, but I don't feel like things are going nearly as well as I would hope them to go. Like, not too bad, man. And like, you hope to see Darius come back soon. Obviously, no real timeline on that toe injury. They didn't announce an extended absence. So, and even a guy like Jalen Tyson, who, I think they've really missed the last couple games. It'll be really nice to see him get back out there. So, while they're figuring it out, not too bad to win while you wait for reinforcements, both stylistically and in the form of like just really good players to come.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is when I look at the Cavs and the tempo of these games, yes, the league is playing faster this season. I almost feel like the offense is playing at either the same speed or even sometimes slower than they did last year, where I feel the change is actually on the defensive end. I feel like the Cavs are currently speeding teams up. And to me, that's one of the more interesting things because last year we know that they did set back a whole lot on the defensive end. And right now, it feels like they are playing risk reward defense, right? They currently lead the league in deflections. Like they are the number one deflection team in the league. They are right up near the top in steals and blocks. They are creating a lot of havoc out there. And whether it's the nominal kind of full court press just to pressure the ball handler a little bit, they are gambling for steals more. I feel like the first half was almost a perfect it perfectly captured basically what the Cavs defense has been this year because there were moments of really bad breakdowns where they left a shooter open in the corner. They allowed too easy of a drive to the basket in times where the defense felt really bad. But then you look at the halftime and it's, okay, well, they actually held the Bucks to a 111.8 offensive rating. The true shooting percentage was 54.7. Like, it was not a good half for Milwaukee offensively, but those kind of breakdown moments are so much louder than anything we had last year. I think that's why it almost feels like the defense hasn't been as good. And I kind of want to get your thoughts on that risk reward style that they're playing.
Yeah. I did not know they were leading the league in deflections, man. And that is encouraging in a way. You know, we're seeing something materially different that they can get data on.
Yes.
Do I think it's exactly the way they should play? It doesn't feel like it's yielding perfect fruit. But by the way, I don't think they were that I feel like they weren't that imposing of a defensive team last year. They were 8th in defensive rating. They had a 111.8 D rating, playing a much more of a shell defense. Bend don't break, contest everything, etc. They're at 112. They basically have the same level of defense right now. Just playing a completely different way, and that I think actually bodes well because if they can find a little bit of an equilibrium, that would be really cool. Because I think if you can kind of cut out some of the slop that you see with a high risk choice defense that we've seen this year, but add some of the variance to last year's much more kind of narrowly focused scheme, like I think you really can get to what we wanted to see them do.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is you would think with applying a little more pressure defensively, having those higher pickup points, it makes me wonder, okay, are they managing to almost slow teams down and get more possessions in the half court? Or like, what does that have to do with transition frequency? And this season, they are 12th in transition frequency allowed and 6th in points per play allowed in transition. So even though they've had really bad breakdowns in transition or games where they've got killed in transition, in terms of how their defense performs relative to the league, it's 6th. So they've been good on the season, but have been bad in these individual spurts. But if you look at last year, they were 11th in frequency allowed. So they actually, ranked just a slightly better in terms of how often the team gets out and runs, and 8th in terms of transition defense. So there isn't really a material difference. But where you do see a material difference is the half court defense, which currently ranks 14th and last year ranked 5th. They were really, really good staying home in the half court. And you mentioned trying to find that equilibrium. I almost wonder if when both bigs are out there, if that's when you're a little more aggressive on the perimeter. It's part of why I'm good with DeAndre Hunter starting, because he kind of has more breakdowns individually than Max when it comes to as an off-ball player. But the bigs are there to clean up. He's better on ball. He's better, gambling and getting steals and stuff like that. But he's going to have a couple lapses. I'm okay with doing that with the two bigs. Maybe you dial it back just a little bit in those single big lineups, right?
Yeah,
because
the only thing that makes that hard is Lonzo is almost never going to play with the double bigs. And he is the number one scheme breaker where he'll just go anywhere to try to get a poke away.
I'm fine with Lonzo doing that. Again, I'm not saying get away from it entirely, but maybe dial it back. Maybe don't pick up as high in terms of where you're picking up the ball handler. Fall back just a little bit more, but still have that tenacity to go for steals and stuff like that, particularly because in those one big lineups, they play more zone defensively because the defensive personnel isn't as strong, which means you're not going to be as good on the defensive glass when you're playing a lot of zone defense. So if you're not getting set and you have those higher pickup points and things like that, I almost feel like you're putting yourself at a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to the half court defense, because like it's way up there in terms of the activity stuff. I said they're number one in deflections. Last year, right now, they're 7th in steals, 15th last season. They were 16th in deflections last year. They are currently 12th in contested shots per game versus 5th last year, despite playing at a lower pace. And that stat's not pace adjusted. So they're not in position to contest shots as frequently, but they are getting these activity stats. So to me, this is the one experiment where I actually feel like I have data points that I understand what they're trying to do. It's going to be interesting to see, can we find that balance and figure out how aggressive we can be in these various lineups?
Yeah, I think to put a button on it, like, I do think I feel better about the defensive process than I do about the offensive process right now, because I think it's more clear where the experimentation is happening, and where they're kind of and like, oh, they're trying to do more chaotic stuff, so the deflections are higher, but the coverage busts are higher in turn. Like, that is like easy math for my brain to comprehend. I think I think they're searching a little bit more on offense. I do feel like, again, tonight was a really good step in that direction. I know, by the way, their offense is still better than their defense right now, by the metrics, but like,
No, actually, the defense is 9th, the offense is 11th.
Oh, sorry.
They're top 10 in both when you do the schedule adjusted, which Matt Moore tweeted out, which might have been what you saw.
I think that's where I got tripped up.
I don't value that this early in the year, because there's too much shooting variance to know whether you're playing a good defense or a good offense.
Same. But I either way, like, I do think I feel better about the defensive process, because I can see the line of thinking is straight, and I can see why you're doing it, even if you're gonna have to tweak over time.
Yeah, and when it comes to the offense, frankly, like you talked about what a difference it makes to Mobley shooting if you just got him 3-4 easy baskets at the rim. The same probably goes for our offensive rating. If he's more efficient and you're getting a couple more high percentage shots, it's probably the difference between the 11th and being a top 10 offense. So we'll see. They have a really interesting test Wednesday against Houston. We will be going live post game after that one, so really looking forward to that matchup. Always fun to play against Kevin Durant. Oh, not always fun. Sometimes
it's normally really hard.
it's fun to beat him when you can. So hopefully the Cavs are able to do so. Win or loss, we will be going live after the game. Big thanks to everyone that tuned in live. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of their view to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.